The Buffalo Bills will get their preseason action underway tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. when they do host the Carolina Panthers. Pre-game right here on WGR is going to get going bright and early with Brian Koziel at 8 in the morning. And then during the game, you can hang out with us over on our YouTube channel, WGR Sports Radio 550, where we will be live throughout the game, watching the action, of course, but also interacting with you. And that will get underway right at kickoff again at 1 p.m. For Carolina and Buffalo, though, starters, they are going to be in to some extent. For the Panthers, it appears to be around 10 to 20 plays, while for the Bills, it is unclear how long starters could go. Tonight, there is just 3 games in action. They all start at 7 o'clock. Falcons hosting the Broncos, Tampa at the Jets, and the Commanders. They're hosting Miami. While in baseball, the Mets have the Nationals in town at 7:10, and a few minutes after that at 7:15, the Yankees, they are in Toronto versus the Blue Jays. While for the Bisons, they are at Worcester. First pitch for that one at 6:45. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
My dad's not here right now. He's still at work. So I'm going to blast him.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I'm going to see if there's a clean version so that my parents and the people at my school will not get mad at me. We've got the spritzer filled with water just in case if stuff gets too fire. I'm going to set up the speaker and I'm going to listen to
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I think this is the best
Mike Schopp
feature that I've heard in a long time. I think his flow is really good in it, and I like his aggressiveness on it, and
the Bulldog.
Put not enough effort in it. I think overall his flow was good, but I don't like that mumble rapping. That was my review of
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Didn't need a spritzer. Wasn't fire enough. No spritzer for you. No spritzer.
Before you say it to me, if you were inclined to do that, I know this is not a good sign for my mental well-being, but I just got a text, like in a group thread, about a draft I'm in, and the text reads, just ran the draft order at lunch. And, like, I'm anticipating the draft order, like, what I have to think about, like, what league is this, and when is this, and who is this? And why, and everything like this, but I know I'm excited. And then I figure all that out pretty fast, actually. I figure out who the person that's written this message is and what this is and when. But I'm like, now it's 3 o'clock and I'm distracted. And I see like the little dots. There's a couple of useless memes, doesn't help anything ever. Not funny, but there's a couple of little memes. And then I see the dots, and like the person is typing either a link. This guy's a close friend of mine. He likes to use, I think it's called 100-yard dash. There's one, it's like a shot of a football field, looks kind of like a Tecmo field, and everybody's sort of put in at random, and then everybody runs. And, you figure out 1 to 12 where you're drafting from the outcome of this race, this quote race. So I'm thinking I'm going to get a link, and I'm excited. I'm distracted. I'm staring at the little dots. I'm not even sure what I want. I mean, I don't even really have an opinion on what's good or bad. Like, it's a draft order, and maybe first is good, maybe middle, maybe last. The one thing I know is I don't like picking at the very ends, because I like to have somebody else's team in front of me or behind me that I can play against. If they've already drafted quarterbacks, then I will wait until the way back around, because they're not going to do that again. Anything like that. So here it is. Bulldog's not here. Last show of the week. The lights are on. Brad even left. And I'm looking at the little dots like, all right, well, I guess you're going to have to put the phone down, Mike, for a little bit. And then just seconds before we start, and the real light, the red light goes on, and there is no red light, right? My mic actually is a red light, but you know what I mean? Like, once we're on the air, and it's not the link to that 100-yard race, it's the list, and there I am, 12th. And I was like, in 1 second, I was bothered by that. I mean, I wanted something else. I wanted some suspense. I wanted that link. so that I could put it over there until like 20 minutes from now, if I could even wait that long, and then click on it and see how I did. It's like a 2-minute kind of little illustration kind of thing, animation. All right, well, I can make it to, I know what I was going to do. I can wait until 3:25 and then check it out. But it doesn't happen, and now everything about this is bad. Now I get the answers, which I was ready to sort of wait for. I am in last in the draft order, which maybe is good. I like saying that I like to pick last, but then I get last and I'm upset. And I would have been upset at first. But, when you get first, people are like, ooh, the influencer 101. Oh, wow, you must know somebody. You must have paid the commissioner to get first. I don't even want first. So I'm last. And, whatever. It'll have to do. This is the stake league, by the way. And I think my Twitter is not going to necessarily look like yours, but what I'm seeing a lot of right now, like these last few days, mid-August, is people getting ready for drafts. A lot of keeper questions, a lot of, structure. We're starting a league. Do I want to have this or that? Like, what are the best way? Even like shows about fantasy sports are asking or talking about these things today, like how best to set it up, how to do it. And that's all good. And so, I just know that this bothers me, even though it probably shouldn't in this stake draft. This is the one where I started to say it, I guess, where there are 12 of us. We got Jeremy and Joe now also. There are 12 of us, and there's no buy-in except for that when we get to next summer, we'll go out to eat. And the top person, the winner, will get to pick the restaurant. And they're not supposed to spare any expense. Like, go big. That's kind of the premise here. And if you finished 5th through 8th, that middle third, then you go out and buy yourself a dinner, whatever you want. If you finish in the top 4, the top third, you eat for free. And if you finish in the bottom third, you pay double. You pay for the people in the top third, right? So there's no like Venmoing anybody $200 to play in it, but you're committed to that night. I mean, if you lose, you better be there. And I have gone undefeated in this thing, and we'll have to make it work this year from the back, from the 12. Well, I'm not going to bore you all day with fantasy stuff, but that just happened. What's a boy to do? I mean, I was just looking at my phone, and then here come the memes and whatever, and here comes the list, and they're 12th. Schopp, 12th. Wow, thanks. I don't even think it's bad. I'd rather have 11th. On fantasy, Theo Greminger will join me at 4 today. He's now with RotoWire. Theo's been on the show several times. He and I have a big one tonight that the draft order, by the way, comes out when the draft fills, when we get to 12 players, and we're at like 8 right now, which is probably fine. By the time, we get through the day, maybe even very soon, it'll fill, and then we'll know where we're picking. I think that'd be really fun to have happen right when Theo is on or right before that, so we can talk about that a little bit. Just one thing, I think fantasy leagues are better when you come up with creative ways to, do the boring stuff, whether that's draft order or whatever. I mean, just scoring, different things, come up with something clever to change that. And I know that that 100-yard dash is one way to do that, and there are lots of, any idea can work for that. Sammy P today, 3:30. Sam Panayotovich flying today. He's always on the move. We'll talk to Sam about different things. I, yesterday, toward the end of the show, got into some stat leader prop bet ideas, and I want to do that with Sam. It was really just that email I got from Bet Online that pointed out for the last 6 years, we've had a different passing leader, rushing leader, and receiving leader in total yards. And nobody has won it twice, even non-consecutively. It's 18 different players, 6 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 6 wide receivers. And I was sort of thinking out loud about whether I would bet on anybody new not winning those categories, leading in those categories the last 6 years, taking it down this year versus anybody that already has. And the rushing leader list was the one where I think it's the toughest to bet against that group. That's James Cook. Last year, McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Jacobs was another one, Jonathan Taylor, and there's one more. So, maybe you get a repeat winner from that group, but that's kind of a fun one to look at. And Sam is usually inclined, I mean, he's Sammy P, he's inclined for everything like this, but to put some money down on some of these awards, whether that's Offensive Player of the Year is one I think of, Rookies of the Year, but then also Stat Leaders. And Stat Leaders is one where we can legally do that in New York State, not awards, because they're not sports and they're voted on, and that makes it different. So Sam and Theo today gave Paul the day off. The Bills, I forgot that I had told him already, go have a weekend. But there was nothing to see today. And Sal is away, so I didn't feel like I needed to press with Paul. Tomorrow should be really, really special and memorable for so many fans. Not everybody went last week. And the Bills, this is, to their credit, the Bills have made that practice, which maybe some would still call a scrimmage. I'm not sure there is a scrimmage, but the Bills have made that practice into an event. Like on the calendar, that this is when the preseason starts, is when they leave Rochester and, do whatever they're going to do on the field that first Saturday night, which is what we had last week. But a lot of you would not have been there and are going tomorrow. And I just think, as long as it's been for me to be like a ticket buying super fan, which is what I was growing up and well into my adult life. Like I lived for it. And then it became work, and that's always sort of changed it for me. But I still love a lot about it and love the idea of what tomorrow, I mean, of course, the regular season especially, but, maybe even tomorrow better than the regular season opener, because there's no reason to care about the game. It's not a practice. It's better than a practice. 2 teams with a clock and stuff, like it's going to look like a football game. They might even have the end zones painted by now. Like, it's not a practice. Practices are really boring. But when you go to one that's at the stadium and you've never been there and no one's ever been there, then that's special. And, 50,000 plus were there last week to see it. But this is above that. And I almost like tomorrow more than what the Detroit game will be. Because by the time we get, no matter where they play, I mean, yes, new stadium, and that opener against the Lions will go down in history in a way to a large extent that this game tomorrow will not. Like, nothing counts from, even in the 21st century, it's still very tough to look up preseason records. Like, nobody even cares enough I shouldn't say nobody, but it's never easy to find out like what happened in preseason games from other years. There's one website, Gridiron Uniforms, maybe it is, that does they show the preseason games and the score and what everybody, what the teams wore. It's a great site. It can bog down sometimes, but I love that. So it has all the announcers and everything. That's a really good one. Otherwise, like, you can't go to profootballreference.com, the literal online encyclopedia for NFL history, and find anything about, or almost anything about, preseason results. And I like it when the pressure's off. I mean, we put so much pressure on, ourselves as fans, if we care a lot about it, when it comes to, and this is me, in the regular season, just like wins and losses. And the Bills have become this team that has made not the regular season irrelevant, because you still have to get through it, but really they're almost like a really good hockey team where the regular season is mostly a formality, like the Avalanche or somebody, where it's just like, okay, well, let's just roll it out 84 times and then it gets serious. And that's what the Bills are football's version of that, where, they've made the playoffs 7 years in a row. They're going on like record long streaks here for playoff appearances and wins in the postseason. 6 years in a row, they've won at least one game. Tomorrow, who cares? There's no. I'm not on the edge of my seat tomorrow. I'm back in my seat tomorrow. The only thing that's really interesting from a football standpoint tomorrow, I think, is how long does Josh Allen play? Or if there's any known veteran starter that plays for, more than a quarter, right? Like, wouldn't that be kind of a story if anybody, it's not going to be Allen, I would think, or James Cook or DJ Moore or anybody like that. But, there's always that. What happens with Coleman tomorrow, right? Like, does he play into the second half? I know last night, one guy that this was a story about, there was a story about this last night because of what we kind of think he might be and then how he's used in the preseason opener is Chargers tight end Oronde Gadsden. So Gadsden was a rookie last year out of Syracuse, and he was pretty good. And the Chargers have made changes. They've brought in Mike McDaniel to run their offense. They have added tight ends. They've just sort of like ramped things up. And last night they played in Houston, and Gadsden played, I don't know how far into the game, but he got action. Other guys didn't play at all. You'd think like starters, if you're going to do it the way Brady wants to do it, then everybody's out there. That's just anybody healthy is going to play, he said. But, some teams won't do that. Drake May doesn't play for New England. Aaron Rodgers doesn't play for Pittsburgh. Love does play for Green Bay. But, it's going to be short. When you see a guy that's been a starter get passes thrown to him and kind of like not a rookie either. I know in San Francisco they had the rookie receiver DeJon Stribling, who was picked in the second round when they lost Ricky Pearsall and they've already lost Christian Kirk. And now Mike Evans is hurt. It's more and more logical to think that this rookie Stribling will be important. He's out there. Not only is he out there last night, he's getting peppered. Like he had 7 catches early in this game for the 49ers. But, when it's a rookie, it makes more sense. So anyway, all of this is just to say that's from a football standpoint, that's kind of the story. Maybe there's nothing else. It's just like hopefully you don't have an injury that we're dealt. But, how long are guys going to play? Otherwise, you're there to see the place, right? I mean, you're going there to see the place. And you bought your season tickets. You bought your PSL. You went last week or you didn't. For those that didn't, you're going to a football game tomorrow, and you're going to see what the new era in Bills football looks from your spot with 2 teams playing and refs and everything. And there's no pressure on the outcome of the game. So that's a really good one. I think tomorrow is pretty good. And so congrats to anybody who is thinking the way I'm talking and looking forward to tomorrow. And just, if you didn't go last week, I think if I had tickets to all of this, I'm not sure I could have resisted going last week because you want to be in there, as early as everybody else is. You paid your money. All right, I'll go to the scrimmage or the practice and see it for the first time, the same time everybody else gets to do that. But if you were able to, or you couldn't go, or able to resist that temptation, tomorrow's probably a better day. And they're saying you won't get rained on tomorrow. Maybe Sunday you would get rained on, but the game is tomorrow, which is better. And, here's to it. Last night, so I'm not bragging. I had last night to myself from 7 o'clock to close in my house. So the TV was mine. And I didn't have my car. So I had no, realistic option to leave the house. I'm looking forward to some of the preseason games, and I want to know, for fantasy purposes at least, like what kind of usage, how certain guys look, all that stuff. So I sit with it, and that added up to about a quarter of the Packers and Steelers. And then I realized I wasn't even looking at the TV anymore. And everybody I cared about was off the field. And so then I moved around. I watched a draft and I watched other stuff. Of course, almost everything I watch I've already seen before. So that's impressive, I know. I got back into the Traders Canada Season 3, and you're not watching the Traders Canada Season 3, which is to your credit, but I am, and there was a big development. Oh, boy, in this one last night. I need to meet somebody who would care about that. I have yet to. 1 quarter of Green Bay, Pittsburgh, less than that of Tennessee, San Francisco at the back end of the night, and that's all I could take. You know, there were some interesting stories. Pittsburgh is one of them. Quarterback Drew Aller from Penn State had a night. And I don't know if I'll talk to Sam about this, maybe. Sometimes Sam is listening to us before he jumps on and might have something ready on this, although I know he's, maybe occupied today. But either way, I've said, and yesterday I said it again, I think if you are into sports betting and NFL betting, I think it makes sense that the preseason is easier. But you just have to know what there is to know. If Pittsburgh were to play Green Bay in the regular season, there's no, apart from like Rodgers getting hurt or something weird, there's no value in knowing what the rookies look like, especially if it's a quarterback. But if you knew, I think this is probably right. Maybe it came out of complete nowhere, but if you knew that this Drew Aller was really sharp and maybe, his practices, what his performance last night was commensurate with what he's looked like in practice, then you might have wanted to hammer Pittsburgh because he's playing. They'll even tell you, usually, how long the quarterbacks are going to play in the game. This guy gets it. If Mason Rudolph starts the game, does nothing. This guy comes in and just deals. 3 touchdown passes, Pittsburgh ends up running away with the game. And, if you happen to know that could happen or that this guy, look out, Pittsburgh has a rookie quarterback that might be good, then you're just going to hammer Pittsburgh. You're going to make the sports book put limits on you, if that's not too simplistic. Green Bay has a kicker. His name is Smack. I think it might be Trey Smack. And he's just from 50, 58, just whatever. Doesn't even look like he's swinging the leg. Just sort of like click. Easy game for kickers nowadays. Green Bay has a new one. I know Cam Ward for Tennessee. I think Bulldog was probably considering coming in today because there's so much to talk about and it's so much fun to be on and to be here and to be with me. But when he saw what happened with Cam Ward last night, he's like, I can't face that music. I'm staying away. I can't. I was going to go into work today, just sort of surprise, but Cam Ward, 36 quarterbacks have appeared so far in this young preseason, and his passer rating is last. He's a second-year starter. I'm going to play him. I'm new coach, Robert Saleh. I'm going to play him because he needs it. Even though I know about the injury risk, I need to get him out there. I need to see. He needs the work, and yikes. So not great there. Maybe it doesn't matter, but it probably does a little bit. If you're the other way around, doesn't matter. Your backup struggles against starters or just struggles in general, that's what should happen. You put last year's first overall pick on the field to start game 1 of his second year preseason against mostly backups, and he bombs. Not good. Mendoza, the 2026 first overall pick, I read was terrific for the Raiders. I just didn't see any of that game, but I believe it. And that's one for me where he should obviously play immediately. The Raiders are talking like Kirk Cousins will start the season, but especially if the guy looks like he can do it, why wait? So that's an interesting one. And there are a couple others. Houston may have lost a backup quarterback to an injury. That's kind of almost all I've got on night 1 of the preseason. Some games tonight, then the Bills and Panthers go at it tomorrow at 1. Sammy P after a break. Theo Greminger today, and maybe I'll hear from you, 803-0550, especially thinking about, as it is preseason only, just sort of the occasion of fans, again, going out to the new place for the first time. I mean, not everybody will be there for the first time, but many will, and I bet it's really exciting, maybe for all, going out tomorrow. It's just so special and different. I'm Mike Schopp. Thanks for listening. Bulldog is off through next week. Sammy P next. This is WGR.
For more comfort.
Now's the perfect time to make yourself comfortable with a new electric heating and cooling system from Belknap.
In Western New York, summer and winter bring extreme temperature conditions. Make yourself comfortable with Mitsubishi electric heat pumps, designed to keep your home cool in the summer and warm in the winter, no matter how hot or cold it gets outside. Call Belknap today to learn more.
I'm Gary Garfel, president of Belknap. We work on your schedule. We don't charge more for weekends and evenings. That's why we say,
Give Belknap a ring.
throws a quick throw. Whoa! And it's caught! The Mandalorian with his first Raider touchdown, and it goes to Jack Bess.
What did the guy call him?
Called him the Mandalorian.
Fernandalorian? I don't know. It's always weird to me how, not that you can get an NFL play-by-play job without being like at 150% enthusiasm level at all times anymore. No one cares that the best ever were never like that, but that's how you have to sound. It's always weird to me that teams pick from, I don't know who that is, sorry. Teams pick from the network guys, some of them, the Bills do, Catalan, to do their preseason games. And, like, there's a picture of the guy with the Bills shirt, and he works for CBS, but now he's working for us for 3 weeks, and then that, I guess that ends, you know, break the ties when the preseason's over and just back to objectivity or something. I don't know. It's also incestuous. I almost said a different word that would have been wrong. Be careful if you're going to criticize like this and get the words wrong. That does not really earn you much credibility. On the West Shore Hotline, Sam Panayotovich. I was setting up for Sam today. I'm like, you know, one time you're at your parents' pool, the next time you're at a bachelor party in Las Vegas, you're hosting a panel on sports betting, you're moving from Boston to Chicago. Today's going to be, you know, free and easy, right? And as soon as I'm thinking of that, I get a text from Sam, hey, I'm at the airport. So I don't know. Do you ever slow down?
I'm never home. Usually when I leave my house at 8 o'clock in the morning, I get home at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. The door people don't even recognize me, and I live there, you know, which is funny. I can tell you, I can fully report, though, I am live at the Logan Airport where my flight has already been delayed 2 hours. But good news, I got everything out of my house yesterday, and then I went to a house party where I took this place out of money in darts. I took all their money in darts.
Oh, wow. So you flew, maybe you stopped in Chicago first, but you went from Las Vegas, where you were last Friday when we talked, and then to Boston, and you're sort of cleaning up Boston before you, and cleaning out Boston, apparently, before heading home. That's the deal?
Yep, take the over on miles, Bulldog.
All right, well, I'll tell him next time I see him. Yesterday, I was just peeking at some futures odds and saw the Bills and Ravens, who have been equal in Super Bowl odds like every time I've looked this summer. But the Ravens are shorter or closer to the top when it comes to regular season wins. And for a minute, I didn't know what I was looking at. But so there's a little bit of a difference there. Bills versus Ravens this year for you. I think you're kind of off Baltimore, right?
Well, I like Buffalo more, but after last season, I'm so jaded and so hurt. You know, it's like an ex-girlfriend. You know, you don't like them anymore because they just hurt you in the worst of ways, because I had Buffalo in so many different ways. From a power rating standpoint, I feel like we have this conversation every offseason. It's Baltimore and Buffalo right at the top. And that's what any odds maker would tell you. And, you know, when you look at the future board, Mike, you got, you know, the Rams on top. But then in the AFC, it's Buffalo and Baltimore, 10-1. So it's the same old song and dance where, you know, they're highly rated, they're highly respected, and they play to a high rating. But I think a lot of wise guys have sort of morphed off of those teams in terms of playing them to do big things. You don't necessarily see people betting under on Baltimore or under on Buffalo in the win total market, but you're seeing money in different places. You're seeing money on Denver to win the AFC. You're seeing money on the Chargers. You're actually seeing money on the Houston Texans. Mm-hmm. And, of course, as we've talked about, Mike, you got a lot of money, wise guy money on Cincinnati. That team has come down. They were 30-1 like 2 weeks ago when we talked, and now I look at DraftKings as I have the app up. I see a 20 at DK, and I don't have the board in front of me. But, you know, you're not seeing that future money, AFC or Super Bowl, on Buffalo and Baltimore. I think the books kind of like it that way. You make them high. If you want to take 10-1 Super Bowl, you want to take 5-1 AFC, by all means, go for it. I have Buffalo a smidge higher to answer your initial question, but I have no dollars on Baltimore or Buffalo at this point in time.
That's different from last year. I think by mid-August last year, we were hearing about your exploits with the Bills, winning the division, the AFC, the whole thing. Does that sound right?
Oh, yeah. I had Buffalo parlayed, I think, 6 different ways. I had Buffalo in this, Buffalo in that. I had probably 5 or 6 different wagers, but Buffalo is my key. And of course, they don't win the division, so that was a slap in the face. I go back to that game. Was it a Sunday night game when they played the Patriots?
Yes.
And you're just like, oh, they were in such a good spot to win that game and really like put their foot on New England's neck. And then from that point forward, New England just got hot. I mean, it was really two teams last offseason. All the hype, all the public hype, Chicago, New England. And you're like, oh, well, they both can't make the playoffs. And I believe they both were the 2 seed in their respective conferences. It doesn't usually happen like that. But yeah, after last season, and we all know how the season ended, I had Buffalo. God, if Buffalo would have won the Super Bowl, I'd have won like $70,000 or something like that. But, it is what it is. We live to fight another day.
Well, at least you have those friends with the dartboard.
Yes.
Do you want to are you inclined to give the public more respect this year? Have the trends changed, or was that maybe just a one-time thing that, I mean, the Bears, you've talked about the Bears a lot and called them a public team, and then they went and had the season they had last year and won a playoff game. So fantasy is changing like this, Sam. I think the sharps, if you will, are having a tougher time finding edges, and I wonder if that's true in betting.
It's a really good question. I used to be a lot more contrarian. I'd go back maybe 10 years. I think the public is a lot more informed than they've ever been, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
I mean, you have so much information and so many websites. I mean, as a fantasy guy, you know this. How many sites do you check every day for fantasy? I'm guessing it's 5 or 6, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So bettors can now look at whether it's a site like Covers or StatFox, or you have all these odd screens and bet splits and Action Network and whatever. So I think the public is a little more informed. I don't think, though, I mean, in a vacuum, if you were to take the public, and let's go 10 years, okay? So let's take the 2 most public teams over a 10-year span. So that's 20 different bets. I would guess if you faded them, you'd probably at this point go like 13-7 or 12-8. Whereas maybe, 5-6 years ago, you're 14-6. I think the public is generally smarter. I don't think they're like going to be, building mansions though anytime soon. And I'll tell you what, like that Chicago point that you just made, and the Westgate, Circa, South Point stations, all these casinos in Vegas. I was there. I don't even know how long ago because everything runs together. I'm guessing it was a week.
Yes.
They're all just telling me that like they can't write an under bet on Chicago. And it's a little different than last year because obviously the Bears were the 4th team on the board. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. The Bears were 4th. This year, they're the most popular team. It's not even close. So I think you look at their defense. I mean, Kobe Bryant's already hurt. I don't know if you saw that story. Initially, they said he was going to miss 6 to 8 weeks, and now it's 3 to 4 months. How does that happen? Number one. But number 2, they're going to start maybe 3 rookies on defense. And this is a team that was, I believe, 27th or 28th in yards allowed last year on defense. So they gave up a ton of chunk plays. The thing for Chicago that worked in their favor was that they led the league in takeaways.
Yeah.
I would imagine that's going to regress. You can't do that year over year in this league. So if you didn't really fix your defense and you're now banged up, or you're going to start a 3rd-string safety and a rookie safety, oh, by the way, Dylan Thieneman, Montez Sweat is already hurt up front. They're putting a lot of stock in this kid, Austin Booker, on the line. We have no idea what he's going to be. I think their defense could be atrocious, Mike. So you couple that with their first-place schedule now because they won the division. It's a much tougher sell for me this year. I actually did kind of like the Bears to make the playoffs last year. This year, I would be looking to short. And I'll tell you what, you could probably wait until opening day. You could probably wait till September 13th, get the best of the number, and then go under the total.
Mm-hmm. With Sam Panayotovich, I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off through next week. I wanted to say my instinct was, to your points about the Bears, how many times does a division winner open the next year or even get to the start of the season the next year as the 3rd choice in that division? But as I look, there are 4 of those this year. I mean, say what you want about Carolina and Pittsburgh, but they're both the 3rd choice in their respective divisions. And so is Denver in the AFC West after 14 wins. That one's closer. Kansas City Chargers and Denver are pretty bunched up. NFC North, Chicago's like almost double the odds of Detroit that finished last. So not a ton of respect there.
No, certainly not. And, I think this is a fun question to play with yourself. like if you were to take one of the fourth teams in the division, like I have the odds up right now. So take one of the teams that has the longest odds.
Love it.
Who would you take first? I'll let you go first.
We're going to draft these?
We could, sure. We could do that.
All right, I just closed it, but I want to play. So it's Miami, it's Cleveland, it's the Raiders, it's the Titans, it's going to be the Giants, the Vikings, there's my pick. The AFC South, Atlanta? NFC South, Atlanta?
NFC South is, Atlanta, 4-1, though. Not a big long shot.
And then Arizona. I'll take Minnesota.
Yeah, I was going to take Minnesota, too. I just keep hearing great things about their coordinators, and everybody is oozing over Kyler Murray, which I don't know if anybody saw the news that he was named the starter officially, and the memes were so funny. I mean, like, they put him at the podium, and he can't see over the podium. It's very, very funny. But if he can actually deliver, some high-quality quarterback play, they could win this division. It's funny. The Vikings are treated like the Bears were last summer. Nobody was talking about the Bears last summer. To win the division, at least. People were betting they're over the win total, but Minnesota at 5-1, I think, is a good bet. I like Tennessee, man, and I know that's, famous last words. Yeah, 8-1, putting a lot of faith in Cam Ward, of course, but I'm a big fan of their defense. They got a lot better on that side of the ball, and Robert Saleh is always going to be a guy who keeps you out of the end zone. So at 8-1 in the AFC South, I get it. The Texans are really, really good. That's a solid roster. But I'm not a Stroud guy. I never have been. So at 8-1 in Tennessee, yeah, that's going to get my money for sure.
We don't have to go all the way with this. I mean, we mentioned Atlanta quickly. I think the Giants are the only other one that's interesting. It's never Vegas, Miami, Cleveland, or Arizona. But the Giants might have a look. And in the AFC South, you're talking about Tennessee. Like, that's happened before. Houston, when it first won that division maybe now 3 years ago, was huge odds to do that. I remember talking about that with Joe Ostrowski. I wanted to ask you a couple quick ones on stat leaders. We've had fun with this in the past. And yesterday I got a stat that I played around with, how in each of the last 6 NFL seasons, passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards have been different players. 18 different guys in the last 6 years have led in those categories. And whether or not there's somebody here this year that you'd like to sort of repeat, it's not just 2 in a row. It's just nobody's won 2 in that span of 6 years. I think receiving yard leaders, there's some fun long shots. One is Burden, speaking of the Bears, at plus 5,000. One is Pickens for me at plus 3,000. That's the one of the 3 stats where I'd like to get a little weird.
Yeah, Pickens is a good call at 30-1, and you could probably find a better number. I don't have the range in front of me, but when there's a 30 at one place, there could be a 40 or a 50 at another. And as we always talk, you should always shop. Especially when you get into like 50 to 60 to 1 range, you could find a 50 at DK and 100 at FanDuel. So just get the best number. Pickens is a good call because we know the Cowboys defensively are not great. Even though they've made some nice moves, I still don't trust them. I just kind of dogged the Bears a little bit, but I think if you play it the way it kind of, could go, I think they're going to be down in a ton of games. And I think Caleb's going to throw the ball a ton, man. So 20-1, 25-1 on Caleb to lead the league in passing yards. I don't hate that. I also was looking at sacks. When you sent me that text this morning, I'm like, ooh, what can I get on TJ Watt? He's 16-1 to lead the league in sacks. That doesn't even sound right, does it?
No, I guess not. I didn't look at anything defensive, but where does that put him? I guess 8th? I see 16-1, 8th.
Yeah. So Garrett's 250, Hutch is 5, Daniil Hunter 6, Will Anderson is 6, and so on and so forth. If TJ Watt's going to give me 14 games plus, I got a chance there at 16-1.
How about Jared Verse at plus 5,000 facing Rodgers and Burrow twice each?
Yeah, that's you could get lost. You can get lost in these markets, Mike. It's
I know.
So fun.
And Rodgers will not allow himself to be sacked. He's just going to throw the ball on the ground. Burrow loves to get sacked. So I want to bet on that.
You mentioned Burden. Be careful with Burden. He's a very trendy player, obviously, and he's going super high in fantasy leagues, but he already has a groin injury.
Yep.
So I'd be careful with all that Luther Burden stock.
Got a running back thought or no?
Not really. I hate the running back bets because the guy that I bet's going to go out in week 4 and be done for the season. I have a hard time being confident in a running back.
Yeah, there are some fun names down the list, like always, but not what seem like great values. What's the latest with our White Sox? If you know, I mean, you're traveling all over the place. We're not winning series as often as we were.
Well, I don't have the standings in front of me. Let me pull them up real quick. I believe 66.5 is going to win. We are 62 and 40 or 62 and 58. So we need 5 more wins to hit the win total over. I'm nervous. What did we talk about a month ago, man? The Tigers.
Yeah,
I was banging the drum, and then of course they trade Scooble and Casey Mize, and they're still winning. That lineup is so good, and that's the team. If you ask me like who's going to spoil the White Sox division ticket that we got at 40-1, it's the Tigers. They terrify me, man.
I just have playoffs, so I'm not sweating quite as profusely. But yes, I agree on Detroit. All right, Sam. Well, sorry that you're going to be stuck there a little bit longer, but at least your pockets are full.
It's all right. I deserve it.
You deserve it. Okay, well, I will not follow up on that. Thanks for your time, and have a safe flight home.
All right, see you, Mike. Thanks.
Sam Panayotovich, now with Fox 32 in Chicago. And if he moves on from there, I think we'll probably just keep going with Sam, as long as he wants to do it. No guest, to my knowledge, that we've ever had is as eager to sort of like come on as Sam. I mean, most people are fine with it, but Sam is like, yes, I know I'm going up. I'm on SpaceX this weekend, but that's no problem. I'll still find you guys. It's cool. I'll never quit you. And I'm grateful for that. And so he and Joe are no longer working together. It was the Odyssey show that was sacked, and then it was Chicken Dinner. They're no longer working together, but I want you to know I did reach out to Joe. I've texted with him a few times in the last few weeks, and the chair is here for him if he wants to do it. He's super knowledgeable. He's been a valuable part of our thing. We love the content from Joe and Sam on Thursday and Friday afternoons during the football season. So I'm not sure it's going to happen, but it's his if he wants it. And just like with Sam on Fridays, Joe Ostrowski, a big part of our last few years on Thursdays. Coming up in about 15 minutes, Theo Greminger will do some fantasy stuff with Theo. Shortly, Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off today. This is WGR. Just less than a minute even here, but enough time to mention that the Bisons are in Worcester again, 6-game series as usual. This would be night 4. And their pitcher, John Klein, I think this is maybe his second start for the Bisons. The Blue Jays got him when they traded Jeff Hoffman at the deadline to Minnesota. So this is, the Blue Jays are kind of they definitely were in cellar mode, and they got this pitcher, Klein, who goes tonight for the Bisons. Bisons lost last night 10-3. Theo Greminger next here on WGR.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go! All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. We've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life. And now it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster.
We've got some suspensions that have been announced across the NFL. We'll get to those here in just a moment as one does pertain to the Bills. But first up for the Bills, their preseason will get underway tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. when they host the Carolina Panthers. Pregame will get going bright and early. Brian Koziel at 8 a.m. And then during the game, you can come hang out with us over on our YouTube channel, WGR Sports Radio 550, where we'll be live throughout the game, watching the action, but also interacting with you. And that'll get right underway at kickoff at 1 p.m. Now to the suspensions, as Bills defensive tackle Fedarian Mathis is out for the first 3 games of the season without pay for violating the NFL's substance abuse policy. Though, it should be noted, this is not a PEDs issue, but instead stems from an alcohol-related incident back in 2025. We do have 3 games tonight in the NFL. They all start at 7. The Falcons host the Broncos. And speaking of Atlanta, defensive end James Pierce Jr., he is being suspended 8 regular season games for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. Pierce was arrested in February in Florida over a domestic dispute involving his ex-girlfriend. And then the other 2 games tonight, Tampa at the Jets and the Commanders. They host Miami. And on the injury front, Saints rookie wide receiver Jordan Tyson, he is dealing with a right hamstring injury and will miss time, according to head coach Kellen Moore. And in baseball, Mets have the Nationals in town at 7:10, and then a few minutes after that at 7:15, the Yankees are in Toronto versus the Blue Jays, while the Bisons, they are at Worcester. First pitch for that one at 6:45. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I don't think Michael's ever done drugs.
It's Mike Schopp.
I don't know if anyone's ever offered him any.
Let's go over some of the symptoms of marijuana use, shall we? You tell me who this sounds like.
It's the Bulldog.
Slow moving, inattentive, dull, constantly snacking. Shows a lack of motivation.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
I don't know. I still think Bulldog might have come in today if Cam Ward hadn't been awful last night, so he could strut his stuff, his I like Cam Ward a lot stuff. And I liked Sam also. He didn't come off Tennessee after that showing last night. Sammy P is still on the Titans at 8-1 in the AFC South. You know, it's 8-1. It's not like he's predicting they'll win the division, but, you know, he's open to the possibility. I'm Mike Schopp. Thanks for listening. With me now is one of the top analysts in fantasy football and a good friend, Theo Greminger from now RotoWire. Theo recently made the move to RotoWire, which we're excited about. Theo has given us much great fantasy advice over the years, but perhaps unlike every other appearance he's made on this show, today I will be writing down his thoughts because he and I are drafting tonight in the FFPC main event. I turn on my TV last night. There's Theo drafting in a big tournament. I check out my phone this afternoon. There he is again. I kind of feel, I have a pretty good feel for you right now, I think, going into tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We need 4 brave souls who want to go head-to-head against
you,
Mike Schopp and I in an FFPC main event. There's still 4 spots left if anybody wants to put their money where their mouth is and beat us in the draft. But, Mike, I think we're scaring off some people. It will definitely fill, but you can check us out. We're going to be streaming that live on RotoWire YouTube at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. What pick do you hope to get, Mike?
Well, I want to ask you the same question, but I definitely don't want to be on the extreme ends because, as I've said many times, I like to go against somebody. If they've got their quarterback or tight end, you know, whatever it is, I want to have somebody behind us so that I can use some strategy there. I think the middle is fine. I mean, the middle is where you can get value when guys slip. So for the most part, the closer to the middle, the happier I'll be. What about you?
I'm open-minded. I drafted from the 1-2 turn last night, and you do run into like some weird areas where you're sort of hopeful the guy will fall as opposed to like thrilled about all of your options. I think that the 103 is a lot of fun right now because you get access to potentially Jamar Chase. You get that wide receiver 1 overall. And then I think there's really strong value at the beginning of the third round as well. 104 is also great. I like the idea that we could take a Bowers in this draft. But I'm open-minded to pretty much any spot. FFPC gives you a little bit of flexibility with the 2 flexes and the tight end premium scoring. So I'll be confident wherever we are. But, like I'm with you. That 4 or 5 range for me, it feels like a very, very high potential outcome.
Is there a player, and maybe I should just say I'm thinking about Puka Nacua for this. Is there a player in the first round where you're sort of hoping not to have to make a decision?
I mean, I do this every year. For me, it's probably Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
Where you get to a range where McCaffrey is the best player on the board, and I think people might sort of be shocked by this, but 30 years old, last year had to take on so much volume. I worry a little bit. We get so comfortable in like recency bias in fantasy football and look at like what a guy did last year. But when we look back at 2024, how the McCaffrey just sort of like crushed everybody. Had to go to Germany to see specialists and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people had already taken him at like the 101, 102 area, and it just sort of ruined their drafts. So I sort of have that in the back of my mind. Nacua is interesting because I think he might start falling into a range where the upside outweighs sort of the downside risk. Do I think he's going to get a big suspension? I think no. I think if it is a suspension, I don't want to kind of speculate on these things. The NFL, it's kind of hard to guess, but could it be a one-game suspension and people sort of overthink it, or maybe no suspension at all? I had Evan Silva on, and Evan notably moved Puka Nacua behind Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jackson Smith and Jigba, so he's got Nacua still in the top tier of wide receivers, but as the wide receiver 4 overall, I think you'll see more people doing that. I haven't seen him fall too much, though, Mike. It'll be interesting to see in like a big high-stakes main event draft like the one we're going to do if people want to play it a little safe. But I don't know. Nakua's been a maniac off the field, and a lot of – I mean, the most recent one is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
The guy goes into a glass window and hurts himself doing that. It just the headlines get crazier and crazier.
What would really be funny if you and I did this tonight in the first round would be James Cook, because I think every time we've ever spoken, we've spent a few minutes on James Cook. And so here he is, the reigning NFL rushing leader. Year before that, shared the league lead in touchdown rushes. And his average draft position is like 111 in this tournament. So are we going to want to do that?
I mean, if at the 111, the 112, when James Cook is there, I think he's an absolute edge pick. I have him ranked at, I believe, 8th overall in my rankings over rotowire.com. I am very much into James Cook. We've talked about this for years and years and years. I'm glad to see you're on the James Cook train, and he's a viable pick for us, Mike.
I'm on the Theo train.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, James. I mean, it's such an easy bet to make at this point, and even the small hope that they unleash him in the passing game. Mm-hmm. I mean, you think about like rational coaching and what looks good. What looks good is James Cook out in space with the ball in his hands. And I think if Buffalo commits to using him just a little bit more in the passing game, and we see the receptions totals go from the mid-30s into like the high 50s, then you're talking about a player with a completely different ceiling that could be unlocked. It's kind of hard to see the rushing numbers regress that much, and the touchdown scoring has just been automatic for him. So James Cook is locked in for me. I think I drafted him in a 350, a slow big gorilla that I'm in right now, which is the $350 contest at FFPC. I drafted him at the 112. I feel like that's an exceptional value where you can get him there. And it's so funny. I mean, I go back in time where I've been sort of a James Cook guy for years, but I remember being on a podcast where there was 2 other people sort of making fun of me for drafting James Cook ahead of Sky Moore in a high-stakes dynasty rookie draft. It's been a nice ride for being on the James Cook train.
So you weren't moved by Sky Moore returning punts last night for Green Bay? That didn't.
No, not at all. Not at all. They're not going to get me. No comeback there. I think I've won that one.
That one's case closed on that. Well, I mean, I like that we'll talk about Cook here and a couple other Bills options because, you know, we know your audience. What is the highest for Cook? Like, would you go 1.6, 1.7? How high would you go?
I think you make an interesting argument. If Cook is the one you want to bet on, I've seen some very good builds from some very good high stakes drafters in both FFPC and NFFC, where they have pushed their running back of choice up to the 106. Now, for some drafters, it's Christian McCaffrey falls to the 106 and they draft him there. But then I've seen people push James Cook to the 106. I've seen some Ashton Genty 106 drafters. And you get that anchor RB, and then you get into round 2 and round 3, and you don't have to worry about which running back will fall to me in round 2. You've got that anchor already set, and then you're able to attack wide receiver with like reckless abandon, knowing that you have a running back who could average 20 points per game. So I think pushing him up to the 106, I think, is completely viable. I think I'm more comfortable when we draft him in the end of the first round.
Yeah.
But as appealing as Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jackson Smith and Jigba are at like the 106 level, certainly we could throw Puka in that mix. Once in a while, you get steamrolled at running back. And then when you're sitting on the board at the 207, all of the running backs that you like are gone. And then you're looking at a potential wide receiver start or wide receiver tight end start. And then you're having to kind of play catch up at running back and passing up on kind of like league-winning values at wide receiver potentially. So I think structurally pushing him up to the 106 makes some sense if you have conviction like I do that he could return value at that range.
106 for me would be a pick or two too far. I wouldn't want to have happen what happened to you and your co-drafter Ryan Heath, was it, today?
Yes.
Where he ended up with Derrick Henry at 206 or 207, because the running backs went right in front of you. I think 6 and 7 would be, for me, JSN, St. Brown, probably, and then 8, okay. And then I think I could live with another running back or London, or sometimes it's Lamb, or sometimes it's Jefferson. That's how I feel about it. Or even McBride, I suppose.
Yeah, Ryan's a really smart guy, and he's got a lot of conviction in Derrick Henry, but this is the first time I've had to click that button in that range. I was in a big NFFC draft the other night. The board was crazy in that one. Derrick Henry fell all the way to 36 overall. It was like a full-on fade of Derrick Henry in that one because that's a wide receiver-heavy format.
Right.
And it was 11 straight wide receivers to start out round 3.
Wow.
And then Derrick Henry fell all the way to the 101 drafter. So the 101 drafter in that one with third round reversal had Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon Achane, and Derrick Henry. A very dangerous start for them for sure. But I'm with you. I mean, Henry, there's just not a sample size of 32-year-olds doing it at the running back position. You had the Priest Holmes season where I believe he played like 8 games and he averaged like 18 points per game. And then you have, I think it was a Ricky Williams season. Okay. I could be wrong on that one. I believe it was Ricky Williams, where Ricky Williams was like the only 32-year-old to give you a full 16-game season and produce a 15-plus point per game average. Derrick Henry, though, I mean, the guy looked incredible in the fantasy playoffs last year. The Ravens didn't really show anything in the offseason where they thought they showed you a move that made you suggest that they want to move off of anything but high volume for Henry. They draft Adam Randall on day 3. That's really the only new running back in the mix there. And Randall is a converted wide receiver at Clemson. He's a kind of a fun, deep dynasty stash, but not a whole lot of experience at the running back position and certainly not ready to be an NFL starter. Justice Hill is back. So they are pretty confident in Derrick Henry still being Derrick Henry. So I get it, but yeah, I'm with you. I'd like to avoid drafting him in that mid-second. So interesting to see where we'll pick Mike, but again, I'm open-minded to any spot.
Yeah, that NFC draft can be wild sometimes. The third round reversal, because those teams are drafting 2 running backs often at the 1-2 turn, and then they need that receiver, so you get those kind of long stretches. Great pull on Ricky Williams. 2009, 13 touchdowns and almost 1,400 yards from scrimmage. Where was I? I mean, I know I was right here in 2009, but That's a great poll. I mean, I think of Ricky Williams. I think in 2002 for him, there was a famous, to Bills fans anyway, Miami-Buffalo game in the snow. And he might have gone for 200 that day, even though the Bills won that game. But, 2009, he was still plugging or chugging with Theo Greminger. I'm Mike Schopp here on WGR. Let's just sort of zoom out a little bit, Theo, and talk about a couple other Bills players for fantasy minded folks in our audience. How about DJ Moore? He's the player we're asking everybody about this year. And there are truthers and there are stay the hell away guys. Maybe Scott Barrett is one from DJ Moore. Scott said, I know you know him well, he basically said he thinks he was washed last year. And the Bills clearly don't. So what's the right play on him?
I mean, I've had to move him up a little bit. I wanted to kind of fade DJ Moore as well, but the vibes are very strong. I mean, there's not a whole lot of negativity coming out of Bills camp on the connection between DJ Moore and Josh Allen. I know, Mike, you're way more locked in than anybody I know, but I haven't found a whole lot of these guys are struggling with the connection or DJ Moore is struggling to ramp up. I think kind of on the contrary, the Bills paid a second-round pick for him coming off of his worst season, and he gets reunited with Joe Brady, who he was very good with in Carolina way back in the day. So there's a really strong narrative here. DJ Moore, we saw what he was able to do a few years back with the wide receiver 6 overall season, his first year in Chicago. I think he's going to have a number of spike weeks for Buffalo. Is it going to be a very consistent level of scoring? I'm not sure. What remains to be seen, but I do think he'll produce, with the way they're going to use him, I think he's going to produce some spike weeks there. I think I'm like neutral with him at this point. I moved him up to 55 overall, so probably in my PPR rankings, so probably a little bit ahead of where Scott Barrett would have him. 56 overall, which is, I think, right about in line with where he's going to go in ADP in a lot of formats. So I'll say I'm neutral on DJ Moore. If you make the big bet on Josh Allen, though, and you take Josh Allen at QB1 overall, and you want to build out a little bit of correlation, I think DJ Moore becomes a little bit more viable, because why not make that big bet, especially in big overall contests. So I'll say neutral, not a full fade for me with DJ Moore. I think I could get burned on where I have him ranked, maybe, but I think that they're going to give him every chance to be a consistent high target share option in that offense.
Theo, it's another year where I just can't click the button on Allen. And this year maybe it's easier for me to avoid doing so than ever because it's so rich. And two things happen, and I know you know this. I mean, two things happen. One is you deprive yourself from someone who you need to have be a star at running back or wide receiver or even tight end in that spot. I mean, that's round 3 or sometimes even round 4. But then you take yourself, in most leagues, most drafts, you take yourself out of the quarterback game for the rest of the draft. And you know what happens. Like we talk about this on ADP chasing all the time. Those guys are well aware of it. You get to the middle rounds and there's some quarterback there that's fallen and you can't do it because you made your quarterback bet 6 rounds ago. And this is nothing about Allen. I mean, look at it. Look at his numbers. Look at his career. What exactly is the argument against him? I'm not sure there is one, except it's really costly strategically, I think, in these. So we'll see how we feel tonight, but I never get them because I'd rather wait literally sometimes 5 or 6 rounds for Jaden Daniels or 8 or 9 rounds for Trevor Lawrence, who ran for 8 or 9 touchdowns himself last year. I just can never get myself to Josh Allen.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the siren call of quarterback where Josh Allen is going in the 4th round, but you start playing the 2-for-2s where do you prefer having Josh Allen and, let's say, Michael Pittman?
Yeah.
Or would you rather have Joe Burrow and who's going next to Josh Allen? T. Higgins. So it's like Jalen Waddle.
Right.
Like wide receivers who could legitimately be wide receiver 1s and a bunch of running backs who could be 15-plus point per game scorers. Those guys go right alongside of Josh Allen. Whereas when you get down to that range of Jaden Daniels, Drake May, there's nobody with that sort of upside. And when you go even further down, if you just want to commit yourself to being late at quarterback, you're seeing some absurd prices. We've seen Dak Prescott in round 12, Trevor Lawrence in round 11, Justin Herbert in round 11, Caleb Williams in round 11, and that's just from the last few days, according to Fantasy Mojo. And then sort of the even later quarterbacks are really fun, where Brock Purdy routinely goes in the late 12th round. And then I like the Jared Goff, where he's going. I can get Jared Goff in the 14th or 15th round. I think he's the 2026 version of 2025 Matthew Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
He's sort of my bet on a guy who's just going to throw for an exceptional amount of touchdowns. And I think Detroit is just going to be scoring at will this year. So, yeah, it's sort of the opportunity cost of taking Josh Allen is you might pass up on the league winner, and then you can always recover a quarterback this year. And, Mike, 2 quarterback builds are very much in play. If you want to wait for the double-digit rounds and take 2 quarterbacks, I think there's some really fun values. I think Bo Nix is set up for a pretty strong season. We know Jackson Dart has the rushing upside. I mean, there's so many guys. And then the mystery box one is Malik Willis, who could rush for 850 yards in what should be a very run-heavy Miami attack.
I mean, the obvious downside is this way, you never get Allen if you think this way, because somebody else, you always leave him for somebody else. And this is a room of smart people who are spending a lot of money on this, and they know the same things we do. So it's just that, like, Goff, 10 rounds later, you know how many quarterbacks, Theo, right now have shorter odds to lead the NFL in passing yards than Jared Goff? 0. I mean,
it's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
He's the co-favorite. I know he doesn't run. I mean, that's not to be ignored. But yeah, like, sign me up. Kincaid this year, what's he for you this year?
Again, I'm open-minded to drafting Dalton Kincaid. I've been a Kincaid backer for years, and that's burned me a little bit. I feel like he's going in a range that he could pay off very well. All the signs are that he's fully healthy. Didn't have to get surgery, but he was banged up last year. Going at that tight end 13 range, all we need from Dalton Kincaid is an every down role where the snap share goes way, way up. And I think it feels like the team is ready to use him like that. So I think he's fine. You're getting access to a great offense in Buffalo. In our offensive line rankings over at rotowire.com, that article is free. It's fantastic. We have Buffalo as the 4th best offensive line in football this year.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the secondary pass catchers besides DJ Moore, Kincaid is obviously going to be a player that they're heavily leaning into. And I think the argument that you made earlier that there's smart people full on fading DJ Moore, if DJ Moore fails, it probably is a net win for Dalton Kincaid with the familiarity he has with the system, the familiarity he has with Josh Allen, and just the talent profile that he has. It's been sort of a slow build-up, but you are talking about a player that the team took in the first round. The drumbeats were great for him when he was younger, and now it feels like we use the term post-type sleeper. This could end up being Dalton Kincaid's best fantasy season ever, and he's sort of sitting there at the cheapest range he's been in quite some time.
Yeah, that's always a fun element of these drafts is how to figure out tight end. FFPC is my favorite place to play with the 1.5. Just adds just the right amount of extra strategy, I think, to these things. So maybe we'll see somebody in there tonight, and you can see us on Theo's RotoWire YouTube channel where we're drafting at 7 Eastern. I'm going to have to bust it out of here when the time comes. Theo, before you go, thank you for helping arrange with me the plan we have for the football season with yourself and other RotoWire celebrities joining us afternoons to preview each weekend in fantasy football, including Ian Harditz, who was on with Bulldog 2 days ago. So I'm a big fan. RotoWire is really where I found interest in fantasy football in the second act here in my life, where it was, my friend Joe was like, you got to listen to Chris Liss. And then he's no longer with RotoWire, but then I started doing that and have always had a connection with them, at least to my mind, through the years. So I'm excited to have you and Ian and the other guys that I know there be a part of our show here this year.
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled. It's going to be a lot of fun. Ian Harditz, myself, some Jim Coventry, and then some other RotoWire talent, we're going to be able to talk football with you every single week. And it's pretty natural for me because we're going to be talking football, off the air a lot. And we have a main event team we're splitting. So we might as well just turn the mics on and make some content out of it. But no, we really are excited. A ton of respect for what you do. And we're happy that your listeners get a chance to hear what we're doing over at RotoWire. Go check out the site. If you have a fantasy draft coming up, we have tools and we have rankings that will help you out a ton. I'm putting out articles. I'm putting out my own rankings over there. You can use the code Theo20, and it gets you 20% off of any subscription. A great place to get ready for your fantasy draft. And if you like using like a draft assistant during your draft, we have a very cool draft assistant tool. They put a lot of work into that thing. It makes your draft very, very easy.
All sports, too, by the way. I've known Sigmund Bloom a long time at Football Guys, and I love their site. RotoWire is everything. You want to play Premier League fantasy soccer or college football. I mean, it's all at
We've got it all
RotoWire.
covered. All covered.
There it is. Theo, thank you, and thanks for the invite. I'll see you at 7.
I'll see you in a couple hours. Let's get it.
All right. Theo Greminger on the Wester Hotline, and this is a big one tonight, so looking forward to that. We'll take a break here and get to the update. We have a Bills suspension to mention. 803-0550. Thinking a lot about those of you who, especially that were not in the stadium on Saturday, that are going tomorrow. And just what are your expectations? Now other people have been. You've heard good and bad at this point. But tomorrow should be a really special day. We'll talk about on and off the field with the Bills going forward here. Lines are open. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
in the NFL's personal conduct policy. Pierce was arrested in February in Florida after a domestic dispute involving his ex-girlfriend. There are 3 games tonight in the preseason. They all start at 7. Just speaking about Atlanta, they are hosting the Broncos. Tampa at the Jets, and then the Commanders. They are hosting Miami. And on the injury front, Saints rookie wide receiver Jordan Tyson, he is dealing with a right hamstring injury, and he is going to miss time according to head coach Kellen Moore. While in baseball, the Bisons, they're at Worcester. First pitch for that one at 6:45. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
With the way they're going to use him, I think he's going to produce some spike weeks there. I think I'm like neutral with him at this point. I moved him up to 56 overall, which is right about in line with where he's going to go in ADP in a lot of formats. If you make the big bet on Josh Allen, though, and you take Josh Allen at QB1 overall, and you want to build out a little bit of correlation, I think DJ Moore becomes a little bit more viable, because why not make that big bet, especially in big overall contests? Not a full fade for me with DJ Moore. Do I think I could get burned on where I have him ranked? Maybe, but I think that they're going to give him every chance to be a consistent, high target share option in that offense.
Theo Greminger. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off today. The Bills news is the announcement, a 3-game suspension for Fedarian Mathis, defensive tackle. I read that he can continue to practice and play in the preseason, which I'm sure he's thrilled with. Just cannot be around for the first 3 weeks of the regular season. Remember last year at this time, we had Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi suspended for, was it each 6 games a year ago? And I had forgotten about that until suspensions landed on my lap here today. I was just looking up, just Googled to find a list of free agents still available in the NFL. I don't know if the Bills will act on this and, bring in somebody else. I mean, it's 3 games, and I don't know if he's important enough for them to go out and try to replace him. Maybe. But I saw the other day, I think the number was 13, and I think it was the second highest number of Bills from last year that are still free agents, as in, like, not in camp anywhere. I think it was 13. So I just tried to find a search where I got a free and easy list. I got as far as to get to Warren Sharp's website, but they don't list these by team. It's just players by position. And I want to go through and see if I can count 13 2025 Bills. I bet I can't find them all. Brandon Cooks, Curtis Samuel. So it's quarterbacks, I don't see any. Running backs, I don't see any. Gabe Davis. So the Bills have at least, I think it's only 3 players from last year's team that are unsigned. Cooks, Samuel, and Davis. As far as I know, none of them has retired. We talk about Cooks now and then. We never talk about Samuel or Davis. I guess neither is anybody else at this point. Tight ends, I don't think so. Offensive tackles. Connor McDermott, was he here for a minute? Maybe he's one, I'm not sure. Interior offensive linemen. I mean, the Bills, really, this is not going to be the area, because I know last year they went to camp with not only their previous season's starters, but all their backups too. So I don't think there's going to be much of that here. Free agent edge rushers. Von Miller is on this list, but he was in Washington last year, so he wouldn't count. Leonard Floyd? Or is that also 2 years ago? Jerry Hughes, who was many years ago, is on this list. I think Bosa's got to be somewhere here. I don't think he's signed anywhere, so I'm not sure if I'm looking at the latest list, and it's not easy for me to do it this way. It's what I've got. 13, I mean, Trey White's going to be one. Matt Milano's going to be one. Shaq Thompson, I think, is going to be one. And maybe there are 4 or 5 more. There's Trey White's name. There's Milano's name. What about Rapp? Taylor Rapp. Jordan Poyer would count. He was on the team last year. No, not Vontae Davis. Vontae Davis does not count. Come on. So, yeah, I mean, what does this mean? Maybe what does it mean above all else? I think it really is another testament to what McDermott was able to do last year. And some of those guys were in and out with different injuries. He lost Hairston in training camp to a secondary and often had, and this is common for a coach, but often had to scramble because of injuries and really age on his defense, and still got them to basically around the midpoint of the league. They were vulnerable. I said recently how I feel like I'm often making a point like this. It often comes from some sort of smack against their run defense. And I feel like maybe last year's defense was a little better than it gets described as being. But one time on the air a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking this way and talking this way and thought, all right, you're going a little bit too far. If you think back to last year, it's not hard to think of multiple games where they got like gashed against the run. Not so much, in the passing game, but that's Bijan Robinson in the night game in Atlanta. That's Devin Achane in Miami. That's Derek, I've done that before. Derrick Henry in week 1 for Baltimore. It's Sean Tucker. And sorry for the lilt in my voice, but it's Derrick Henry. It's Sean Tucker for Tampa, who ran all over them in the middle of the season. And that's not the whole list. I mean, it's not hard to think back to last year and remember that the Bills did they win all those games? Well, no, they didn't win the Atlanta or Dolphin games, but they beat Baltimore somehow, and they beat Tampa, just outscored them. Cincinnati, there was a high-scoring game with the Bengals. Like, that's one of the prevailing memories, I guess I could say, about last year, is that against the run, there were some bad days. Maybe ironic that they lost to Denver in a game where they did not get run on. And I think perhaps, I'm not sure, thinking back so long ago, but it probably was what we were worried about the most. I mean, Jacksonville ran on him. ETN had stuff. Bashal Tutin was killing them. If Bashal Tutin gets the ball more for Jacksonville, I maintain that they win that game, but he was a backup, and, there's other factors that get in the way of coaching decisions. It was a good back and forth game. But I think Denver ran for 70 yards against the Bills and was not successful at that. So, again, kind of ironic that for a season like they had, they lost in a game where their run defense really isn't what got them beat. Scott is with us. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Mike. I was just listening, and, those guys still at free agency, that's just a bad reflection for Bean. And I still don't know how he tricked Pagula into keeping him and getting rid of McDermott. If you can't put together a roster, that's more than one side of your whole team that's completely gone and no one wants them. Maybe your GM should take a reflection of that and say, wow, maybe I should try and find better caliber players, maybe even a first-round receiver, so when we're in that clutch situation, Josh can complete one instead of breaking our hearts every year.
I've heard this before, and maybe even from yourself, and I really fail to understand it. So these are players that are not on the team anymore.
Right.
And
He thought last year they were good enough, and what has changed? About 6 months?
Well, I would have to say the same about some of these guys. I don't know about Trey White anymore. That was a kind of more of a desperation move. Sure.
Right. It seems like all those guys that you listed were retreads that were desperation moves because of poor planning from the GM.
All right. That point works. All right. Thanks, Scott. I suppose. I don't think it's true across the board. Should they have been done with Milano before last year? Should they have not gone for Joey Bosa before? You want to say retread. You wouldn't say retread about guys that were only before ever on your team, but okay. I think that's true at wide receiver. Samuel, Cooks, Gabe Davis, absolutely. That's right. Wide receiver is always where we end up, spinning our wheels, and if you wanted to make that point only about that position, you can. That's right. Well, like I said, in other times I've heard that criticism and sort of got stuck because they're not here anymore. And is that bad? Is it bad that Milano and Trey White are not on the team right now? I don't know. But you want to say last year they shouldn't have been either? I guess that's fair enough. I just think it looks good on McDermott because if these guys were 1 year away from maybe being out of the league and they went to the second round again and won 12 games again, I mean, that's pretty good. And their defense wasn't great and their offense mostly was, but still, you're patching it together this way. And the holdovers, this is Rapp too, right? I mean, Rapp is a younger guy than those other ones, I think, at least by a little bit. Your holdovers are not really stars either. Like, that's what the Bills are left with. It's really a transition moment for them on D. You've got Oliver, you've got Rousseau, you've got Bernard, you've got Benford, among others. But really, new coordinator, new looks, really a point in transition for them. And I think probably in a couple years, maybe, I don't know about Benford, but those other guys will be gone too by then. Interesting. Thanks, Scott. 803-0550 for your calls. I'm Mike Schopp. Back after this timeout here on WGR. Welcome back. Big fun day tomorrow, even if it is the preseason, for the first game at the new stadium, 1 o'clock. We'll have coverage all around it and on the YouTube channel during the game, so you can consume it that way, which I think is usually a way more fun way to consume a sporting event than like the traditional way. It's sort of to listen to people talk about it, not, describe it, which you can already see, and then just bury you in like first this of the game, first that of the game. It was me. I know not everybody sort of gets me on this. Maybe I'm just old, but I was listening to the Yankees one night this week, and I tweeted it. I went from my house to our high school. It's like a 10-minute drive, if that, each way. And in the span of that drive, the Yankees had a sponsor for the first walk of the game, which was for a car company. Why walk when you can drive? Somebody thought of that. The first strikeout of the game was something. I think it might have been a lawyer, because usually it is. Then there was somebody could win $100. The Yankees. Somebody could win $100 if so-and-so did a thing in the game, sponsored by X. Then there was another one that I couldn't think of by the time I got home. It wasn't that long, but still, I couldn't think of the fourth one. And the fifth one I've heard before, and it's hilarious, is the cleanup hitter is sponsored by a cleaning company. So that was the cleanup hitter. He's brought to you by so-and-so. He's really not. He's brought to you by Aaron Boone and himself. But okay, like we got to call it something. It's just like, I know, and I also feel like not everybody sort of gets this. Younger people, like that's been your entire life consuming sports mostly, and you don't know from a time when it wasn't like that. The first walk of the game had a sponsor, and I also recognize I live in this world too. I mean, I'm hitting you with when Sal's appearances. Like I know that that's what drives it, and the Jeep actually is what drives the Yankees games because that's what they tell you every half inning. But, I mean, can we just sort of calm down? There's everything. You're the Yankees. What are they worth? Can we just have a little bit of respect for the listener that just wants to – is there a baseball game in there anywhere where we can actually talk about where the center fielder is lined up and not just if the center fielder is wearing red shoes that are sponsored by Red – I wish I had it. Red Box or something. Just like can we just be real? Maybe not. Jake is next. Hi, Jake.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
So I was calling because I kind of just wanted to talk about the upcoming season. I feel like this season has just so much negativity surrounding it, whether it's the new uniform or the new stadium or the coaching change. And sometimes I think about other teams like Stafford getting traded to the Rams or Tom Brady going to the Bucks. And I feel like fans need to understand there might just be one simple thing that your team needs in order to set you over the hump and get you to that Super Bowl win. So when it comes to Joe Brady being the new head coach, yeah, I know we don't have anything to, take notes on because he's never been a head coach. But I don't know, I think that maybe a lot of Bills fans just need to look on the optimistic side of things, and this could be exactly what we need.
Thank you, Jake. I want to toe the line there. I want to agree with your sentiment. Yesterday I rolled this out. I mean, what are the vibes? It's sports radio, and the vibes, if you just go by people that engage with you, are going to naturally be on the negative side because our nature is to complain about certain things. And if if 99% is good and 1% isn't, we're talking about that 1% more than 1% of the time, how it works. But yeah, I mean, I've had a tough time kind of finding that guy. It's a lot of, yesterday we had a call, I brought this thing up, it had the same kind of, wide-ranging or broad kind of topic, and I got one call, and it was from somebody said he was upset about a couple of play calls that happened during the season, and then, he was better than that as we got into the playoff game, and there were some specifics, but when I was listening to him, I thought, man, we're digging deep here to try to find problems, I think. It's kind of tough to be great at that job. And, Brady did all right in the last couple of years. I'll do more on this maybe. I just don't want to get buried with their flaws when the team has been so good, especially with the stadium thing tomorrow. And it's that time of year where you want to be optimistic. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
The preseason begins tomorrow afternoon for the Buffalo Bills as they will be hosting the Carolina Panthers with kickoff at 1 p.m. Pre-game right here on WGR is going to get going bright and early with Brian Koziel at 8 a.m. And then during the game, you can hang out with us over on our YouTube channel, WGR Sports Radio 550, where we'll be live throughout the game, watching the action, but also, of course, interacting with you. And that's going to get underway right at kickoff at 1 p.m. We do have some suspensions in the NFL, and one of them, it does involve the Buffalo Bills defensive tackle, Fedarian Mathis. He is going to be out the first 3 games of the season without pay for violating the NFL's substance abuse policy. This is not, though, a PED situation, but instead stems from an alcohol-related incident back in 2025. And then Atlanta defensive end James Pierce Jr., he is being suspended 8 regular season games for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. Pierce was arrested in February back in Florida after a domestic dispute involving his ex-girlfriend. To tonight, there are 3 games in the preseason. They all start at 7 o'clock. The Falcons, they host the Broncos. Tampa is at the Jets, and the Commanders, they are hosting Miami. And then on the injury front, Saints rookie wide receiver Jordan Tyson, he is dealing with a right hamstring injury and will miss time, according to head coach Kellen Moore. Mets have the Nationals in town tonight at 7:10. A few minutes after that one, at 7:15, the Yankees, they're in Toronto versus the Blue Jays. And then the Bisons, they're on the road at Worcester. First pitch at 6:45. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Welcome to the Hotel Hell. Check-in time is now, check-out time is never.
It's Mike Schopp.
Does my room have cable?
No. And the sheets are made of fire.
Can I change rooms?
Sorry, we're all booked up. Hell convention in town.
And the Bulldog.
Can I have a late checkout?
I'll have to talk to the manager.
You're not the manager, even in your own fantasy?
I'm the owner. The co-owner. With Satan.
It's Mike Schopp.
Okay. Just so I understand it, in your wildest fantasy, you are in hell. And you are co-running a bed and breakfast with the devil.
And the Bulldog.
Yeah, but I haven't told you my salary yet.
Go.
$80,000 a year.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
In fairness to Dwight, that's a fairly old clip. But, sure. Maybe he shot a little low there. Happy Friday, beautiful day. Should be gorgeous tomorrow, they say, as well, for Panthers-Bills. Don't forget, one of the things I'd be honored if you remembered me for in the future, if you were ever to think of me after if it'll ever happen, moved on from these airwaves, the weather people are almost always right. You're going to go to a picnic this weekend, and it's going to rain for 5 seconds or something, and don't be friends with that person anymore. Somebody's going to say, oh, they predicted sunshine. Almost always right. Way better at predictions than sports people. And they seem to get no credit for it. It's only when they're the offensive linemen of the world. It's only when they miss. And, maybe it's hard sometimes to predict weather, right? Maybe. I wouldn't know how to do it. I would just be lame about it. I'd just be like, whatever it is right now is my prediction for the next day. Although, again, by the sounds of it, that would be pretty accurate today for tomorrow for what's expected. But, I don't know how to do it. People at that picnic, though, are going to know how to do it. They're going to be, oh, those weather guys, they're just always wrong. They're not. They're almost always right. Do the math. All right, enough of that. Patrick is on WGR. Hi, Patrick.
Hey, Mike.
Hi.
Thanks for taking the call.
You're welcome.
Like you, I came from Rochester to the Buffalo area in 2003. And I just want to say you and Mr. Parker have done a great job. I've listened to you oftenly.
Thank you.
I mute the TV and turn the radio on just to listen to you guys. But I can hear the joy in your voice about a preseason game, which I was deeming like that's not that important. But now we get to address all the naysayers about the stadium because we'll actually be announcers and showing film, so we'll actually have something on air instead of scrimmages from people's phones. So I can't wait for that too. It's going to be a glorious day, 80 degrees. 1 o'clock in the new stadium. Josh will get a couple handoffs, maybe one pass attempt.
Did you ever think Did you ever think, Patrick, when you were hearing me sound this way about the preseason game tomorrow, that maybe I had lost it?
Yeah, but then I kind of agreed because I started putting things into perspective and going, I can't wait. I can't wait for this 1 o'clock game that's going to be on television, and they won't show, the old anchor bar come in when they're spinning the wings or Niagara Falls.
They might.
They might actually have some new footage.
Yeah, you can't rule that out. So you're not going. You're planning to watch on TV?
I don't think I'll ever go to a game, Mike, just because it's outpriced me, I believe, unless I win something through a raffle or a friend drops out or someone offers me tickets.
Yeah.
It seems way too difficult to get into the stadium. We went from the cheapest ticket prices for decades to now. I'm not going to say they're the most expensive because it's a secondary market, but they're up there now. And I think I've been outpriced, and I've been a lifelong fan. I'm your age, and I just want to tell you, Mike, you guys do a tremendous, tremendous job. And thank you for listening to the Dan Le Batard Show. Goodbye.
All right, Patrick. Patrick might have thought that I am from Rochester. I was there 11 years, but I'm not. I'm from where I live now on Grand Island. But yeah, thank you. I'm not going tomorrow either, and that's just because I choose not to. No, it's not a cause. It's just I don't know. I'm going to use the grill and cut the grass. I'm going to do that. I'll probably watch some of this game. I can't promise all of it. Maybe I should watch all of it. No Bulldog. I don't have the crutch. Like, with the Bills in the preseason or the Sabres, especially the Sabres. He watches every game to completion. I mean, he watches every minute of their season. And I just am not gonna. I'm not gonna. I'll just say it now. Part of that is this is a cause of mine. Part of that is because the regular season is not that interesting or important. I'll eat up the playoffs just like the next guy. And when people say there's nothing better, I don't argue with them. The Stanley Cup playoffs, but I don't know. Sports has gone. What did I read today? Sean McIndoe was talking about Hockey Night in Canada. Had a special broadcast for many years, Punjabi, I hope I'm saying it right, like a certain broadcast in a different language that they shut down. And he tweeted about it just to say the NHL has entered its more expensive but still worse phase. And that's kind of how everything tends to feel. Not exactly the point I wanted to make, but sports, I mean, big sports, NHL, NFL, baseball, is always adding to the postseason and thus reducing the importance of the regular season. I'd like for the regular season to mean more. Now, in football, we really don't have this complaint. Football works fine. They did add more playoff teams that nobody wanted, nobody cared, never did anybody protest that there weren't enough playoff teams, but, sports has got to be sports. So we have 7 now per conference, nice round number. Hockey, baseball, man, I was thinking about it the other day. And what happened, I was thinking about, I'll say this first, just how useless most of the pennant races are because of the 3 wild cards. Like, there are 2 good division races the last time I looked. One is the AL Central and one is the AL West. Everything else is kind of over. But who cares? Because wild card teams have almost as good a chance of winning the thing than the division winners. So, like, what's the point? It gets us through every day, gets us through the dog days of summer, if you want. But I just feel like it's not that interesting because almost in every case, half the league is going to make it. And so, okay, well, let's skip ahead to that. Fantasy fills that void for me because you don't have that sort of, what's the word for it? Kind of complacency about the regular season. Sort of like, oh, I got to dig in here or else I'll be in trouble. It's my money. Where was I? I think tomorrow this is what the caller was referring to. I've talked about it a few times today already. I think tomorrow is really cool. And the fact that complaints about certain vantage points or whatever else about the stadium from last weekend kind of dominated the discourse earlier in the week does not mean that it isn't awesome and that the fact that there is this new place for the Bills to play in Orchard Park, I mean, ideally it would have been in the city, but we'll take it, is incredible. And that's by far, by miles, like that's the prevailing takeaway, is that I can't believe this is real. I think to Bills fans who go back a long time and might have been kind of like we can be around here or anywhere, cynical or fatalistic about how this was ever going to end. It's there. And I guess you can't see perfectly from some number of seats. I'll say again, I don't scoff at that. It wasn't going to be perfect, and a lot of those people knew, at least to an extent, what they were getting. And I don't know, okay. But it's still amazing that it's real and there and ours. So you have a preseason opener tomorrow that will not be remembered for anything that happens on the field, hopefully. The only thing that it could be remembered for on the field would be bad, an injury, something really bad, So apart from that, it's just about experiencing it, even if it's on TV, seeing it like the rest of us will get to do for the first time. And that's really cool. And it doesn't matter if they win. I think even by Detroit in a month, it'll be like, all right, well, maybe they'll even lose in Houston. It'll be like, I gotta have this game. And sure, stadium, yes, look at that. Ooh, but gotta have this game, like it's a short season. This one, it doesn't matter at all how they do. You can't even look up how they did in other preseasons. Like it's not it in a world where everything is sort of at your fingertips stat-wise. You can't even. It's hard to find game scores from box scores from preseason games, and I don't even bother trying because what are they good for? These guys have their league. They got to figure out, the stats. Owen and Zach and Bulldog have got to tabulate. That'll be fun. For these games. I mean, I'm definitely not above that. Let's go to Tony next. Hi, Tony.
Mike, I don't know if you just stole my thunder or led into me perfectly, but tomorrow will be my first time. And I referred to myself to a friend earlier today as possibly the lowest maintenance season ticket member transitioning from the old stadium to the new. I didn't have really any questions. I do not engage in a lot of what's been the last month or so. Basically for me it was like, all right, how much a month for 9 months and then 12 months, and oh my God, how many times are you hitting my account? But of course I'm in, and as selfish as it may be, the idea that I'm going to see drive or two of the real look Bills tomorrow in this stadium, on top of it being my first time. It's an all-time giddy preseason moment for me, I think, man. Mm-hmm. It's an all-time giddy preseason moment. I'm old school. I'm used to the starters playing a little. Let's see what's up. And I got some Bryce Young, going on elsewhere, along with Coker. So I want to see what's going on.
Wait a minute. Don't run away from me after saying this. So what are we doing? We're putting a lineup in for just tomorrow or just this game or what?
No. Already drafted teams. I've got Young on a team. Okay. And Coke and a couple shares, I think you would call it in your neck of the woods.
Yes.
A couple shares of Coker. So I'd like to see some football tomorrow in a brand new stadium.
Yeah, I thought maybe you were playing like a lineup tomorrow, and then I was going to have to take my hat off to that because that's pretty good.
Absolutely not, man. I'm still dialed in on baseball. Still, I built some keeper teams in football, but. Yeah, man, it's easy to lose track over the last 40 games on that other sport that we play, but I don't lose track, I'll tell you that much.
Well, good. That's good on you, Tony, because baseball players, fantasy players that stay with it once football starts, I've heard it said many times, like there's an advantage if you're somebody with baseball that can stay focused on baseball after football starts. Because, I mean, what percentage of fantasy baseball players play football too? 90? Maybe. So then football starts, we get all, to use Tony's word, giddy about it. And, I forgot to find out who was pitching the night. But that I know Tony, and he's not gonna fall for that. Good luck with Bryce Young, man. So Coker, Carolina, had a guest on yesterday from Charlotte. Bryce Young, Jonathan Brooks, one of the hot names right now in all of this because he came into the league with a lot of hype, but he had a torn ACL when he got here, and then he had another one. And he's played almost not at all in 2 years. But Chuba Hubbard, their main guy, or who had been their main guy, our guest yesterday said he would still be their main guy, but he has a hamstring injury. And so it's Brooks, and they're talking like he's going to play tomorrow, which I think, whether it's Jonathan Brooks or Josh Allen or anybody, unless it's about the unveiling of the stadium, I don't get it. If you want to make sure Josh Allen knows where the play clock is, isn't there a safer way to do that? I mean, he seems to go on the road and kind of pick that up pretty easily. But okay, I mean, I think it's, it's fun. As long as nothing bad happens, it's fun. So Carolina, Young, Brooks, Leggett, Coker, and Tet McMillan, and maybe you get all of them tomorrow. It's a pretty good little group. I'm not optimistic for them because I just think Young is bad. Maybe he'll turn good, but he's kind of been bad. I think McMillan is good. I think Coker might be good, but there's only so much you can do with that if the quarterback isn't good too. It does seem, I hate when I have to resort to seem, because there are ways to find these things out. But yesterday I sat here and heard how Joe Burrow was going to play and Jamar Chase was going to play for Cincinnati. They did. I saw one completion from Burrow to Chase. Then I saw Burrow get sacked and thought, I know he's good at that, but why are we doing this exactly if I'm Cincinnati? Higgins, I think, played too. I know Burrow and Chase did. Arizona. So Arizona's in Vegas. And, okay, Vegas, in my mind, it's fine that their rookie quarterback play in that game. And he played quite a bit, Fernando Mendoza. And he was good, apparently. I didn't see that game at all, but I read that people were impressed with Mendoza to the extent of, like, just why not start him right away this year? And I don't know, maybe they still will. But I get why a young quarterback, maybe even Bryce Young, certainly Mendoza, Cam Ward for Tennessee last night. I understand why a coach would want them on the field and would basically side with that priority over the injury risk. We got to get information on this guy. We got to see progress with Cam Ward or Bryce Young. I think for a quarterback, and you want to make sure as a coach, I think, that no real risks are taken beyond what is within the scope of sort of like a practice would be. Get rid of the ball. We don't need to dive for first downs, just play the game, but play it safe. If that's not counterproductive to teaching the quarterback, in and of itself, I get that. Jeremiah Love carrying 14 times for Arizona last night to me is crazy. So I've got a running back where I don't need really development. I don't need to find out. I just drafted him 3rd overall as a running back. I should be pretty damn sure that he's good, and I'm going to find that out in the regular season. But 14 times in the first half, I think it was, for Love and Arizona last night. And he had a tweak. He had something. And they were talking after the game about, like, oh, well, he should be fine. Why do we need that? Why does a running back need 14 carries in one half of the preseason opener? I just don't understand that at all. So quarterback, you can convince me. Let's see if Mendoza gets plays off on time and, looks the part, right? In short. And he did. They say he did. Pittsburgh's guy, Drew Aller from Penn State, a rookie, not the 1st overall pick, not even a high pick. But he got time last night. I saw some of that game. I didn't see much of him. I was out of there by, the second quarter. But 3 touchdown passes, and Filippone's over there just raving about him. He's writing online apologies because he didn't like him, I guess, at Penn State. So that's a story. Quarterbacks, you want to see it. You want to know, Can they? And that can be a lie, but because you're playing against backups and who knows what other randomness can factor into that. It can be a lie. But, man, it's exciting for a team without an obvious answer at quarterback to trip upon a rookie and have him look great. And I think that's what happened for Pittsburgh last night. And I bet Andrew's dealing with fans who want him to start after whatever amount of snaps in a preseason game against backups. I mean, he's not going to start, but maybe you got somebody there. Maybe he's Rodgers' successor. I think it can sound crazy, but I think you can do some of that in the preseason. You just don't need it at running back or maybe any other position. Because why do you need to see Jeremiah Love run through the A-gap? Like, just, all right. I know if I didn't think he could do that, I wouldn't have drafted him third. I wouldn't have drafted him at all. That was a weird one. What else? So, Drew Aller, Pittsburgh. I saw their new receiver, Jeremy Bernard, from Alabama, make a couple of plays, too. Like, that was interesting. Another guy with the big, like, the concussion shell over his helmet. That got my attention. I haven't thought about football, like watching a game, in a long time. But I was watching him, and the Steeler helmet is unique in how the logo's only on one side. And I guess I never thought about it before, but whether it's the Steelers or any other team, you gotta perfectly match that concussion shell to the actual helmet. Like, there can be no variations on that, right? I mean, it's got to be a perfect match. That's somebody's job, is to make sure of that. Maybe it's not the same person that makes the helmet, but whoever's making that shell has got to just, all the details have to be right. Somebody's in charge of that new Bills blue helmet, because somebody on the Bills is going to need that shell. Bernard for Pittsburgh, Drew Aller. Cam Ward, I heard, was really bad for Tennessee. One tweet I saw said that of 36 quarterbacks to have played in this preseason, his passer rating or his grade was 36th. I mean, that puts him behind all the third-string guys so far for Tennessee. And that is, like I said earlier, it's maybe not that important for a young quarterback to shine in the preseason. That can be a lie. Like, that doesn't have to tell you that everything's going to go well. But when you have the first overall pick from last year with a year under his belt, yes, a new coach, still show up for the preseason and he's a mess, if that's not too strong, that does not look good. You know, he's not our guy, and I've got no reason to root against Cam Ward for any other thing other than he's like not on the Bills, right? I've got no agenda, and nothing I know about him like is offensive or anything like that. He might just be seriously worth rooting for, but that is just not how. Thinking of the fans, thinking of guys in my chair in different markets, like that is just not where you want to be, because what you have then is really an insufferable conversation about whether it mattered. You know, like, you're talking to fans of that team, and if you're honest about it and you think it's a very bad sign that, you know, what did he go, 5 for 19 or something like this, that happened, you're basically riling up fans who think that, you know, you shouldn't care about it, that it's not important. And they're only really saying that because it's their guy that did poorly. And that's just, you know, it's important to remember in this job that we're not in that space anymore. It may be where we are again in the future. And if you don't stop to think about how nice it is that you don't have to have those arguments that are just, again, insufferable to have and to listen to, that makes you feel better about it all. Lots of people would have different ways of describing what Josh Allen means in their lives. For me, that's a big one. That we don't have to argue about bad quarterback performances in the preseason, whether they mean anything. I'm pretty sure if he goes 0 for 4 tomorrow, we won't be arguing about whether that told us something about Josh Allen. Oh, he has a child now. I promise you that will not get off the ground if it even comes to us on Monday. I promise you that. You have my word on that. I could not do it. Tennessee doesn't sound great. Then there's Anthony Richardson, by the way, in Indianapolis, who is not going to start for them. And really, at this point, it seems there's nothing riding on Anthony Richardson, but he did his thing last night where there was a pick. He had a rushing touchdown. He was kind of all over the place, accuracy-wise. Again, maybe that's, to be expected, preseason opener, but you got the flashes and you got the headaches, I guess, and life goes on there. 803-0550 to join me. Thanks for your calls. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off through next week. This is WGR.
For the first time this year, Bills game day tomorrow afternoon as they will get their preseason underway. They are hosting the Carolina Panthers at 1 p.m. Pre-game right here on WGR. We'll get going with Brian Koziel at 8 a.m. And then during the game, you can hang out with us over on our YouTube channel, WGR Sports Radio 550, where we'll be live throughout the game, watching the action, of course, but also interacting with you. And that'll get underway right at kickoff at 1 p.m. There are some suspensions, though, we've got to get to, one of which does pertain to the Bills. Defensive tackle Fedarian Mathis is suspended without pay for the first 3 games of this season for violating the NFL's substance abuse policy, though this is not a PED situation, but instead stems from an alcohol-related incident back in 2025. And then for Atlanta, defensive end James Pierce Jr. He is being suspended for the first 8 games of the season for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. Pierce was arrested in February in Florida after a domestic dispute involving his ex-girlfriend. Tonight, there are just 3 games in the NFL. They all start at 7. Falcons hosting the Broncos, Tampa at the Jets, and the Commanders. They are hosting Miami. And then on the injury front, the Saints. Their rookie wide receiver, Jordan Tyson, he is dealing with a right hamstring injury, and he will miss some time, according to head coach Kellen Moore. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
I'd love to play. I couldn't tell you how long or how many drives or what's the case there, but to get out there and get a good feeling and a good sense of the game and get a good sense of the guys around me, I feel like that's important to do. So whether that's game 1, 2, or 3, whatever it is, going into the game with the mindset of I am playing no matter what, and whether I do or not, that's up to Coach Brady.
Pretty sure Josh Allen had reason to think or know that he was going to play in this game before saying that. I wonder what he said other years. I don't remember. It's the preseason. But maybe when he knew he wasn't playing, he was diplomatic about that. Now he knows he is, and of course he's going to say that he wants to. So nothing to see here. The first preseason game at the old stadium was famous for a kickoff return, right? Wasn't there Wallace Francis, wasn't there a kickoff return to open the stadium, as it were, in 1973? That was not in the regular season. The first regular season game in then Rich Stadium ended 9-7, and the Bills did not score a touchdown, but they did win the first game in the old place, 9-7, against Al Woodall and the New York Jets. O.J. Simpson, 24 for 123. Joe Ferguson passing. It was 1973. 7 for 17 for 74 yards and a pick and a sack, according to Pro Football Reference. Bills got out 9-0 on 3 John Leipold field goals and then gave up a late touchdown. I don't know how late. Aaron Schatz is going to find out. So he tweeted today. I'm back to following Aaron Schatz, by the way. Not that you asked. I've always been a fan of his. But a long time ago, I stepped away from accounts of people many are people I admired and respected that were just arguing with people on Twitter a lot. And I didn't like that. So I just stopped following them. That's before there even was a mute button, which is now sort of like your cop-out move is I can't take this person anymore and they're not going to know, I hope, but I'm going to mute them because I just don't want to waste my life reading, arguments between writers and fans. Just not here for that. But I've always admired Aaron. I mean, he's been on our show for many years. And he tweeted today, now this is my jam, as they say. He tweeted today that now on Pro Football Reference, we have play-by-play for the 1977 season. And I don't know, probably not, I can't swear to goosebumps, but ooh. So I immediately dug in and I tweeted Aaron back and said something about one of his findings. I started digging in on 1977. And if you know the Bills from the 70s, it started just the way you would expect. Miami 13, Buffalo nothing was the first game of the 1977 Bills season. But I had to read about it. I had to read the play-by-play because it was there. And there are a couple, there was an article that Pro Football Reference posted about this. There are a couple of games where they don't have everything. I'd love to talk to Aaron about the work itself. I reached out to I don't know the person's name. I've never known anybody from the reference sites, even though I would say on average, I open a tab from one of the reference sites 10 times a day. On work days, it's going to be more. On weekends, it might be less, but if I'm drafting, I want to see the schedule or some statistic. It is, if I can lump them all together, it is by a million miles, other than like Twitter, where I'm at the most online. So I reached out to somebody with the reference sites a long time ago. Once I started to discover old games on YouTube, and you'd go to the reference page of that game and there'd be no play-by-play data, I'm like, let me do it. This would be fun for me. I like puzzles. I like sort of data entry. Like, I'll watch this Bills game from the 70s and I'll write out the play-by-play. And the guy, he wasn't unfriendly. He was just like, no, thanks. Thank you for the offer, but no. I don't know why he wouldn't have wanted to have people crowdsource that work for him. Maybe that's changed. Maybe that's what Aaron did. I mean, that's Aaron Schatz. There aren't many authorities in football more well qualified for this, and you know you can trust him. Maybe he just didn't know me or something, and that's fine. But this was the news quote. News today was the 77 season is up there. So this is just before my time. I don't remember. I would have been 5, so I don't remember 1977. That blizzard, I guess, but still, it's only what I've been told. And that board game, which I loved. The 77 opener, Bills and Dolphins. Dolphins punt, Bills punt. Dolphins punt, Bills miss a field goal. Dolphins punt, end of the first quarter. Bills punt, Dolphins field goal, 3-0. Bills punt, Dolphins punt, Bills missed field goal. Halftime. All right, on to the third quarter, 3-0. I dare tomorrow's game to be worse than this. I'm putting that out there. No way tomorrow's preseason game is worse than this so far. Some of you are probably at this game. It's in Orchard Park. Third quarter, Bills punt, Dolphins punt. Bills, interception. This is a problem. Dolphins field goal, Bills fumble, Dolphins touchdown. Now we're in bad. 13-0 in the middle of the third quarter. Bills fumble, Dolphins punt, Bills aborted snap on a punt effort. They tried to punt. Dolphins punt. How many times have I said punt? This is horrible. Bills punt, 13-0. Different era. 13-0 down, 4th and 5. See, we know the play-by-play now, thanks to Aaron and those guys. 4th and 5 at the Bills 40, down 13-0 with about 7 minutes to go. Punt. Yeah, we'll get them next year. They didn't, by the way. They didn't get them this year or the next year or the year after that, or most basically of their history to this point. They never got them. They just punted. Miami punt. Bills go for it. 4th and 10 with 3 minutes and change left, down 13-0, incomplete. All right, well, at least they didn't punt there or kick a field goal to make it 13-3 to avoid the shutout. Some coaches would have done that. Remember Ron Rivera against the Bills when he was coaching Washington? Got to look that one up. That's like week 3 or 4 years ago. It wouldn't have been 4. NFC East. So maybe, whatever, 3 or 4 years ago. And the Bills were up by 1 million, and he kicked a field goal. You see that. Good on whoever this coach was to not do that. Ringo. Good on Ringo. That point, I've been wanting to say that for all these years. Dolphins punt. Bills, again, incomplete on 4th down, and the Dolphins run it out. 13-0. Oh, for the 70s. The Bills had much the better of the stats, more than double the yards of the Dolphins, but 4 turnovers, 6 penalties to Miami's 1. Oh, the competition committee guys are out there. They're scrambling. They're trying to find their phones to ring me. 1 penalty for Miami in that game, in the opener. They were ready. They probably played 6 preseason games, and the starters played all of them throughout. I think maybe everybody did that in those days, which is crazy. I love the reference sites. I'm not sure how much 1977 Bills I can take the way this has started, but I mean, the final scores from that week, 13-0, 13-3, 7-0, 20-0, 13-3, 24-0, 17-6. How did this league explode from these years where attendance was small? I mean, they talk about the merger, like the 60s with both leagues, or even going back to that Colts-Giants championship game in the late 50s where sort of the NFL and pro football became something resembling what it is today, where just like we were all about it. Not by this year, I think, because I don't know if I went to this Cardinals-Broncos game that ended 7-0 and I would have wanted to go back. Just looks pretty bleak. Everybody's punting all the time. Thank God for the analytics world to break us from this football obsessed mania about punting all the time, just because, we wouldn't want to lose. I love the reference sites. I even was on, this happens almost every day too, the baseball reference page, because my sister texted me a Facebook post from a friend of ours who said how he went 50 years ago today. He drove to Pittsburgh to see the Pirates, and Bob Gibson pitched against the Pirates and threw a no-hitter. It was his only no-hitter. And I have that box score up, 11-0. Before I was born, but that's a cool. And he had a ticket stub. You might still have the ticket stub from that game. Pretty cool. All right, I'm all over the road here. Bulldog is off, as you can tell. I mean, how rude of me to not let him say a word if he's here. He'll be off next week, too. Bills and Panthers tomorrow at 1 as the stadium sees its first actual game. We'll put the actual in quotes. It is the preseason, but you are getting, apparently, starters for both teams. This is Mike Schopp. Thanks for listening. Happy Friday, and thanks for listening to WGR. both out at the fair. Today was my daughter's first day working at the fair. My son was there last year, and he's been there every day so far this week. And I just got the perfect text from my wife. I think this is like the perfect thing you want to hear. Is this, you tell me if this is cruel. I hope it isn't cruel. I certainly wouldn't mean to be. Both kids are home and they're exhausted. Oh, baby, right? I mean, that's a good day's work. It's hot, and I know they're being put to work. Like, they're not out there just glad-handing. They're not out there trying to raise money for their political campaigns. No, they're doing actual work. They're moving things, and they're on their feet. And that's the report I got, which is, I think, the best. You don't want to get both kids are home and they're whatever. Like, they said they were bored, or they didn't have anything to do, anything like that. No, you want they're tired. I can't teach them that. I have known that my entire life as a father, as a parent, because I don't have that work ethic, right? I'd have to sort of adopt it or fake it or just sort of reinvent myself, which I have heretofore not done, and like show them, quote, real work. No, I mean, I saunter in here in the early afternoon and hang out for a few hours talking, and then I leave. So it's cushy. But these guys are out there, like a lot of people at the fair. I know for whom they work. That guy, Adam, puts in a lot of hours, and it's a lot of heavy lifting. Taking everything out there and setting it all up and undoing and redoing that every day, and then at the end, next Sunday night, unpacking everything and returning it. I was out last weekend at the National in Chicago, and I was with my guy, Gary, who I've known for many years, back when I had the hobby show, and really a legend locally in terms of collecting, if not nationally. He's been at the National 27 years in a row, setting up. And it's so wonderful to see people that know him. It's like basically a reunion every year. And I was my first year in many years having been at that show. I loved it. But I've always respected the amount of work that he and the other dealers, the other people who are setting up there, like at anything like this, put in. And, you know, he's an older guy now, and he's got to carry, or at least, you know, somehow transport all these cards and all these boxes and bins and cases to his spot, which in this case, at the show in Chicago, it's 2 weekends ago, I guess now, all the way across from his parking position. So he had to lug everything, not every night, but just sort of the beginning and the end of the show, all the way across the convention center to his station. And just like, all right, that's pretty tough. It's like, yeah, we're getting old with this, but it's a pretty good legacy, and it's a long time devoting yourself to that. And I just, you know, I don't know. I guess I'm feeling a little bit high today for some reason. But just sort of, I loved getting that text. They're home and they're wiped. Well, that'll make it a little bit easier in terms of my conscience to draft this thing with Theo tonight, because I'm not, you know, necessarily going to be asked to entertain them, which when they're, you know, it's teenagers is kind of tough anyway. I don't get a lot of requests for that. Dad, will you sing us a song? It's like, want to watch a movie together? I'm not getting a lot of requests for that. I never really have, but now as teenagers, everybody's kind of off doing their own thing. Maybe they'll be asleep by the time I get home. I don't know. Sam Panayotovich every Friday here on WGR talking about some football futures. That's next. I'm Mike Schopp, and this is WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Football today, tomorrow is Saturday.
I miss
reaching inside. My liver's all twisted up. But you know what I did? I took Deborah, went to the liquor store. I loaded up with alcohol, more specifically vodka, whiskey, beer, tequila, more beer, more vodka, more whiskey, and more beer.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.